Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Real Talk. On today's show, it is arguably one of the hardest jobs in the world. But with 2 billion people fulfilling this role, it is also one of the most popular. Today, I'm joined by our expert panel of mothers and our studio audience to talk about motherhood. Let me start by introducing the panel today. First, we're joined by Nasser Rahman, who is a vice president for the Ladies Auxiliary of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community here in the UK, as well as being in charge of the religious and social education of girls aged 7 to 14. She's a teaching assistant by profession, mainly supporting special needs children. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam.
Next, Dr. Amtarazak Carmichael is a consultant specialist breast surgeon here in the UK, and she works closely with a genetics unit in Birmingham. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
We're also joined by Maryam Chaudhry, who is a facilitator for a parenting program in the UK, teaching parental confidence and competence. Assalamu alaikum, Maryam. Finally, we have Dr. Freya Khan, who is a general practitioner by profession. She is also a vice president for the Ladies Auxiliary here in the UK, as well as being in charge of the Ladies Publication Department. We'll come back to our expert panel and our studio audience in a moment, but first, we wanted to find out what people had to say about this topic. Take a look at the word on the street.
Motherhood, considered a blessing by many, yet arguably the toughest job in the world. With a third of the world's population wanting to be mothers at some point in their life, surely it must be both rewarding and fulfilling. So what is it about motherhood that attracts the modern women? And how can we as women prepare for this important role? We've come to the streets of London to find out what you think.
Do you think it's difficult being a mother?
Yes, definitely. Very hard work. I don't think it's easy, but I think you adapt to it once you become one.
So is it difficult being a mother?
Not really. I don't think it's not for me, but I'm very lucky. I've got a very good baby and I've got my mum around the corner to help me. So from that point of view, yeah, it's lovely.
I think it is a full-time role. It's a big responsibility, but I think if you're ready for it and prepared, I think you'll be fine. But I do think you've got to accept that it's very, very big responsibility.
I think learning to have another responsibility in your life that's not yourself, putting someone else before yourself, and also costs involved and everything that comes with being a mother, really, which is quite hard work.
I think patience is probably the biggest skill I think that you need, and I think we all struggle a little bit with that, but I think patience, probably.
Patience, and when they are a little bit older, the communication, that's also very important once they reach teenager.
Statistics show that the average family in the West spend almost $250,000 raising a child to the age of 18. With more women working and increasing financial pressures, how are they balancing the act of working and having a family? With more women opting to have children later in life, what is the right time to start a family?
Do you think that there are problems juggling motherhood with work?
It can be. I mean, I think depending on where you work, it can be very hard. If you work for a good company, they, if there's a lot of mothers, they can work around it and things. But I do think a lot of parents do struggle.
I think juggling the two can be a very big challenge, and I think for some mothers they'll juggle it and some won't, and some prefer to be at home all the time and they don't want to leave their children, which makes it very hard if you've got to go to work.
Yeah, I think it is probably harder for women because men just have to do with making the money, whereas women have to do with, most women who are independent and single, they have to do with work and a baby as well. I think it is much harder on them.
The Holy Prophet ﷺ has said, "Paradise lies at the feet of your mother." So how does the Muslim woman today rise to that challenge?
Let's start the discussion with our panel. Maryam, why be a mother?
Well, as you said, Tahmina, it's one of the most popular jobs in the world, and it falls from being a natural instinct. When we're in a stable relationship in a marriage and we're enjoying that relationship, the next step is to have a child, and it's something which comes naturally to us, an instinct.
Yep. Nasser, would you like to add anything to that?
I would agree with Maryam. Being in the teaching profession, seeing young girls at school, whether in the reception or whether they're in year one, as they grow older, their instinct, they're more caring towards other people. They love playing with dolls, etc. And as I said, the audience here, I'm sure they remember childhood memories of instinctively going towards playing houses, playing with dolls.
Freya, what is the Islamic view on motherhood? What does Islam say about being a mother?
Islam puts a lot of emphasis and gives a lot of importance to a mother. And the Prophet tells us that it says that paradise lies under the feet of your mother. It's basically, it explains that it is a mother's responsibility primarily to look after her children, to give them a home environment which could resemble paradise in this world, but in turn, when she raises pious and good citizens and they look after her as well when she's older, it promises them a reward of paradise in the other life.
Abdul Razak, is that Islamic view of motherhood compatible with the realities of Western life?
Absolutely. We all, coming from West or from Ahmadiyya Muslim background, wish to produce children who are good people. And when we are gone, they carry on with the good work that has been done. And this is the philosophy most mothers share. And Islam goes one step further and introduces the concept of sadaqah jahriya, is that once you have taught your children good things, they carry on doing it once you have gone, then the reward of motherhood continues even after you have gone to the next world.
Yeah. Well, what about the audience? How do you view the role of motherhood? Is that view, do you think, compatible with the realities of Western life?
I think the role of motherhood is quite challenging and as well as the panel said, rewarding, and it's quite a big and huge responsibility on the mothers to bring up their children in a good and a nice way. And in the modern day, when young ladies start doing a job and they study at the same time, I think it'll be more challenging for them to raise up their children.
That's a really good point. Mariam, do you think that the role of motherhood is challenging?
Oh, incredibly challenging. We don't always think about that when we enter into it, and we learn as we go along. Hindsight is a great thing, and when we look back, we will always think maybe we could have done this a different way. But we must take each challenge as it comes and use the resources around us to face that in the best possible way we can.
Yeah, Freya, as a working mother, and taking what our audience just said, do you find that challenging to be working and having children?
It's extremely challenging. I would completely agree with that. Because you have to find that balance. As a mother, your primary responsibility is upbringing of your children. But as a career woman, I wouldn't say there is a conflict. All you have to do is work hard and find that balance.
In order to find that balance and meet those challenges, Nasser, do you think that you need to be taught how to be a mother?
I think there's certain aspects of motherhood that you do need to learn about. And it's nothing that, they don't come naturally. And that's why, I mean, this country especially, they have so many facilities that when a woman does become pregnant, they teach you specific things a mother has to know how to look after a child. But I think when a woman is pregnant, a natural motherly instinct kicks in and she naturally prepares herself. So I don't think it can be, I mean, you can be taught things and learn through experiences of your mother, of other people. I think experience is the best way to learn things when you hear about other people.
Would you like to add to that?
Yes, skills that we need to call upon when to practice motherhood are learned throughout life. For example, as siblings we are sharing, we learn we are taught patience, we are hopefully taught organization, and we are taught the punctuality, and all these are extremely helpful skill to join the difficulties of career, to deal with the difficulties of career and motherhood.
Yeah. Did you feel prepared for motherhood, Nasser? Did you feel that before you became a mother that you had these skills in place?
No, I mean, it is daunting. I think any new thing you venture into, you have, and it's the unknown for you. You have doubt in your own abilities, in your own skills. But I think within in my family, I had the support of my mother, my sister, cousins, and I think a support unit is important, and it gives you the confidence to try things, and you will make mistakes. You know, but don't be scared. You know, you learn from your mistakes.
What about the audience? Those of you that are mothers, did you feel challenged? Did you feel that you were prepared to be a mother?
I think the word challenging comes up quite a lot when discussing motherhood. And as a new mother, my son is now nearly 10 months old. I think that there are various aspects of motherhood that I never knew about before becoming a mother. And no matter how much someone tries to prepare you for motherhood, you can never be prepared, but you can pray for yourself a lot. I think that's very important, that when you are expecting your child, that you pray for yourself a lot, and then also socially you draw from the experiences of people around you, and as the panelists have said, that you have a good support network and you embrace this new challenge.
Okay, those of you that are not mothers, do you think that it would be helpful to learn more about the role before you become a mother? Yeah, can we?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very important to know, and as it's a very big challenge and huge responsibility, and I think the best way to do is observe your own mothers or grandmothers raising up their own children.
That's a very good point. There's a comment in the back.
Yes, I think it's very important to have as much preparation as possible. I mean, it's like an exam, and you know, if you're not prepared for it, you don't know what's going to come up, and at the end of the day, you're still not going to know, even if you are prepared. But it's important to have as much preparation for the physical aspects of being a mother, for the spiritual aspects of what you're going to teach them, how you're going to prepare yourself, and how you're going to prepare yourself during your pregnancy. So in every way, so spiritually as well. So that, I think, is very important, where you can get that from Islamic teachings as well as from, you know, general sort of knowledge and scientific knowledge of how to prepare yourself. So it's, you know, we've advanced so much to have so much knowledge. It's important to acquire some of that knowledge.
I want to come back to the panel now and talk about, is there a right age to think about becoming a mother? Amtul Razak, what do you think of that?
There is a right age for every woman where she should get married, would like to get married, but there's no generalization on that. Some people feel perfectly capable to deal with the challenges of motherhood in their late teens, early 20s, while others feel that they will have to invest their time and energy in other things before they can take on the challenge of motherhood. And both these options are right. We need to take into consideration from a medical point of view, very early motherhood have got certain psychological challenges related to stress. Later motherhood carries the risk of infertility. So as long as one is aware of one's personality and the risk attached to either type of motherhood, then women, couples, can make a decision which is right for them.
Okay. Freya, what do you think? Is there a right time? Does Islam say anything about this issue?
I mean, of course, Islam promotes marriage. This is something that Holy Prophet ﷺ himself chose for himself, and to have children as well, and that's what he wanted for his followers as well. And I mean, personally, I believe that, I mean, of course, very early age, as Dr. Saba said, it has its own challenges, but the earlier you do it, then you do not have that later life problems.
What about people that, say, a young couple, especially living in kind of Western countries or really anywhere in the world, there may be financial fears, saying that they're not prepared financially for the burdens of children. What would you say to that?
I mean, as far as Islamic point of view is concerned, Qur'an tells us two occasions that we should not consider birth control or stopping ourselves as a married couple from having children just for that reason, that financially we wouldn't be able to afford the child, because Allah is the one who gives us everything. So I think that is one point that they shouldn't be concerned about.
Miriam, what do you think about the career versus having children early on? A lot of women say, you know, we want to have a career first and put our stamp in the world before we have children, and we end up just raising them. What would you say to that?
I think that's something you have to weigh up as a couple, what you wish to prioritize, and how you feel you can manage your life, and whether you are willing to give up something, because as you say, for a young mother, it is harder for her to give up things which she feels maybe she will not be able to achieve later in her life. So it's a very personal decision, I think.
So what would you say to that?
I mean, definitely what I would say is that you have to be, you have to want to be a mother, and you'll know when the time is right. I mean, if I give my own personal example, I was a young mother. I had my children, and I was a mature student, and just a couple of years ago I graduated. So that's the way I chose my course of life, with the support of my husband and my family. And because when you become a mother, you do need everyone's support. And I think it's very important for young girls to understand there's not one set route. You know, there's so much variety in life, so many, like one of our audience was saying, you know, there's so much technology, so much to offer. There's nothing wrong with taking that path first, but it has to be in agreement with everyone.
Yeah. Dr. Razak, would you then say motherhood doesn't interrupt life, does it? You have to make it all work.
Oh, yes, with the grace of Allah, you just find yourself in a position where everything eventually works for you. But it is, as we all have recognized, is very challenging. In my example, I think if I had the opportunity to become a mother earlier than I did, I perhaps would have been unhappy. After becoming a consultant surgeon, I felt that was an opportunity. I enjoyed my daughters more. I had more time on my hand. I had more control of my life. And so, as Nasra said, every woman has a different challenge.
What about the audience? What do you think about the appropriate age or the career versus having children first? Let's come to the front here first.
Well, ideally, I agree with the panelists. You should, the younger you are, and having children at a young age. But the way the society is going, and the way women are very much sort of career oriented, and they do want to develop their career. And I think we shouldn't penalise those women who do want to develop their career and wait and then have their children. I think that's perfectly okay as well.
So there was another comment back here.
I was just going to say that I also started my career, and then I felt ready that, you know, I'm established in my career and now I can have a child. And I think that really helped me to organize my life. And I knew the time I needed to give to my career and the time I needed to give to my child and my family. So it has worked really well for me to establish my career and then have a child. So it works different for every person, I guess.
Yeah, how about back in the corner there?
I agree with the panellists at the front. I think one thing that as Muslim wives and mothers we need to remember is that the mothers, when their children are getting older, when their teenage years, before many years before they marry, they need to prepare girls and boys, but they need to prepare girls for all outcomes. So regardless of the career path or the education that they choose, they need to be prepared that from the moment they get married, they need to be mentally ready that they could have a child within that first year, regardless of their studying or their career, because we believe that God can do whatever he pleases it in that manner. And also we should also be prepared that if we've not taken educational or career route, that we shouldn't assume that we can automatically go into that mother role straight away, because there may be some kind of physical difficulties at the time, whether it's through diet or health, etc. And so we might then be blessed later on, 5 or 10 years down the line. So I think it's very important that, we're prepared for, each eventuality, and then alternative lifestyle, whatever that brings.
Okay, how about up here? Just one more comment.
I just wanted to add that from a purely physical point of view, that if you have children when you're younger, you may be able to cope with it better from a physical point of view. You'll have more energy to run after your child, and you'll recover better from the actual physical stress of giving birth, and also the inevitable fatigue and sleep deprivation that comes with having a young child.
That's a good point. We've started to talk about some of these physical considerations. Are there any health considerations, Razak, that we should take into consideration when we're contemplating motherhood?
Absolutely. There is very good quality evidence that healthy mothers produce healthy babies. And many things I would urge ladies to consider is to be of normal weight. If you are within the normal weight with the body mass index between 20 and 25, which most of your GPs can tell you, then you're likely to have normal pregnancy. Folate is a supplement that women who are contemplating motherhood should take that reduces the risk of genetic abnormalities. There's also stress. Less stressed and relaxed you are, you're more likely to conceive, more likely to have a healthier, happier baby.
Great. Freya, is there anything that you want to add to that about how Islam talks about any specific guidelines, health guidelines?
I mean, Islam doesn't give any specific health guidance as far as I know for women considering to be a mother. But as far as health guidance is concerned in Islam, there is a lot available. Holy Qur'an tells us to eat healthily. When it mentions on a couple of occasions about halal and tayyiban, the food that you eat should be lawful, but it should also be good, wholesome. It should be healthy for your body. So I think these are a few considerations that they can take as far as the health is concerned. But Islam also emphasizes on the spiritual preparation. There are specific prayers as well that you should recite. So all of these things should be considered.
Nasser, did you do anything when you were contemplating motherhood in terms of the physical side to prepare?
I think, as Dr. Zach said, you have to be as best as you can to your best health. Take extra vitamins and, exercise, all these things that we've told to do daily. But definitely, I agree with the panelists.
Don't forget the practical side. So if you're a working mother, you need to start thinking about the childcare arrangement, your maternity leave, and if during your job you get pregnant in very early stage of your career, then your chances for having maternity leave are much lower. So these are the other practical sides. Wherever you're working, you need to consider as well.
I want to talk now briefly about some of the risks that may come with this. And often in Islam, we're told that cousin marriages are allowed. And some scientists say that there's a risk to children of cousin marriages. And I'm wondering what you think about that.
The cousin marriage is a very important and perhaps at times misrepresented concept. There are many facets on which we should look at cousin marriage. Good quality social research shows that two parents who are related, when they produce children are likely to do well. They're likely to achieve higher socioeconomic status. The risk of domestic violence is very low, and also the risk of having deprivation is very low. Or depression in women who are related to their husband is relatively low. On the other side of the coin, we also know that the risk of having congenital abnormalities or birth defect is about 3.5% across the board. And this risk is increased by 1% if parents are cousins. So just about a little bit it's increased. So these two have to be balanced. And another aspect perhaps we'd like you to consider is that if intermarriages go on for many, many, many generations, then there is a risk of diseases like deafness and thalassemia to come to surface. So taking all these factors into consideration, we need to make an informed decision about marriages within the family.
Yeah, Freya, would you like to add anything to that?
I would just like to add that, of course, Islam allows us to have cousin marriages, but we also have to find a balance, as it also tells us to find a middle ground in everything that we do. So in my opinion, if you see that there are serious genetic hereditary diseases that are being passed on from one generation to another, then we should consider and not force our children to marry in the family.
Yeah, Nasser, would you like to add anything to that? What do you think about this issue?
Well, I mean, recently I was hearing the answer to this from the fourth Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya community answered this question, and as Dr. Zach said, it's such the marrying within cousins and without, there's such a small percentage difference that there could be problems that Hazur Khalifa said that it's not a clear proof that if you marry cousins something definitely will happen. So as Dr. Freya is also saying, you have to see a family background, because it's not necessary that you're cousins. Some children can still be born with defects.
Okay. I think if I may add that we do read in common press about people in Bradford or Leicester or Birmingham where there are pockets of very significant genetic abnormalities in Asians, which are thought to be because of family reasons. There is, again, that science has been challenged significantly because those women are generally deprived. A lot of them don't have language skills, so they can't use their perinatal help. So that need to be looked into.
Not just this issue, but in general, where there is a risk. Do you think that a woman should be tested for these risks during pregnancy, Freya?
I mean, she can be tested. In my opinion, of course, these are medical tests. They're not offered to everyone. These are specific tests that would be offered if your doctor considers you to be at a certain risk, whether it is your age or whether there is a family history. So a woman should consider, with the help of her doctor and her family, she makes a decision, she can go ahead.
Right, there was another comment back here.
I just wanted to say, although the early years obviously are very, very difficult and very challenging, as we've discussed, they are also so rewarding. And once your kids go to school, you lose out on all that time that you have with them. So really try and make the most of it, the time you have with them.
There's one back there first.
Talking about statistics, we have to remember that these are statistics of probability, which don't always match up with factual statistics of what's out there. So there should be a distinction there.
That's a good point. One last point here.
I just wanted to point out the fact that actually in the Holy Qur'an there is no prevention to marrying your cousin. There are certain relationships where it is haram to marry a certain someone, but on the whole it is not frowned upon. So I'm actually a product of a cousin marriage, and alhamdulillah, everything has turned out okay, and I think it's personal opinion and personal preference to how you choose your spouse.
Okay, thanks for that. We're going to leave the discussion here for now. Join us after the break when we discuss some of the challenges and the rewards of motherhood. We'll be right back.
An interlingual channel promoting interfaith dialogue, worldwide, live and interactive, on satellite television and the internet. This is MTA International.
Welcome back to Real Talk. Today we've been discussing the importance of motherhood and some of the challenges that this quest brings. I want to come back to the panel now and talk about those women that want to be mothers, but perhaps for some health reasons they're not able to become mothers. Isaac, what do you think about?
3% of couples all over the world are unable to have children. We are very fortunate in this day and age with Allah's grace. There are many, many treatments available, like in vitro fertilization, and way in which even women can, and chances to conceive naturally are also enhanced. Islam gives very clear guidelines regarding these infertility treatment. Ahmadi Muslims are allowed to have some of those, but other treatments in which genetic material is used from somebody other than husband and wife, we are not allowed to have those treatments to preserve the biological sanctity of life.
Let's suppose that even with these treatments, that a couple is still not able to have a child. Freya, what then? Can they pursue adoption, for example?
Of course they can, because as far as we know, that Islam puts a great emphasis on the society to look after its orphans. And the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, once said that whoever looks after an orphan and raises him or her well, he would be in the paradise very close to me. And he actually raised his fingers and he showed this close. So I think with that beautiful teaching of Islam, if a couple cannot have a child of their own, they can look into raising an orphan perhaps, and I think that would be a great idea.
Okay, there's a comment in the audience on that in the back.
I just wanted to say that when a couple first get married, their natural course of progression is to have children, and they may face certain challenges. It may be from the mother or from the father, and the main thing is not to get disheartened and consider lots of different options. Speak to your GP and other consultants, and then even if all avenues have been looked into and you still cannot have children, then like the panel member said, that you can go into adopt, and the main thing is that both parents should be willing and consider all options before they do that as well, because it's quite hard on the child as well if only one parent is more geared towards adoption and not the other, and also the wider family unit should be there to help as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. We have another point on that side.
Yes, I think it's very important to also mention that in Islam, it doesn't specifically say that only couples who cannot have children of their own, that adoption is promoted. I think that for any person who has enough love in their heart and enough space to raise another child, if they have children or not, that if it's in their heart to provide this nurturing environment, then they should not be dissuaded from it.
Because we have the example of Hazrat Amma Jan, who was the revered wife of Hazrat Masih Maud ﷺ. She had children of her own, but she regularly adopted orphans and other children and looked after them and raised them and married them. So we have very good example, practical example of that in our day and age.
And also two couples that aren't able to have their own children, especially to a woman who isn't able to become a mother herself. What would you say to her? Because Islam does say that a woman's primary role is to be a mother.
Again, it is difficult. I think, first of all, everyone has to acknowledge the pain that person must be going through if that lady wants to become a mother and cannot. And I think to sympathise is important as well. But as a Muslim, you know, we always, when we are in trouble, we always fall back to pray to Allah. And that is such a comfort. And with all the options these days, you can foster, you can adopt, you have so many different options. And within our Ahmadiyya community, we have so many schemes to help the orphans as well. So, I mean, I think definitely that woman needs support from her family and her friends and community, but it's prayer.
Another kind of cultural stigma is having a male child. Women seem to be under pressure to bear that male child. What would you say medically to that?
Well, we know that the gender is determined by the chromosomes we have. So if we have X chromosome, that makes us all women, and if we have XY chromosome, that generates a male child. And when a baby is being made, they take one chromosome from father and one from mother. So if a child takes an X from mother and X from father, they become a girl. Whereas if they take X from mother and Y from father, then a male child is born. So though Alamia determines the gender of the child, but the process that takes place comes through the husband, not through women. So I don't think women should feel under any pressure regarding this issue.
Miriam, what do you have to say to this, about this issue of having a male child over a girl child?
I think that with time, our view on this is really changing as the world is changing. The emphasis is not so much on a boy. I think in a different time, there was so much expectation from a boy. He was going to help you in your business. He was going to carry on your name, your family name. Whereas in the world we live in today, we don't have those same expectations. And actually, I think most mothers have the desire for a girl just as much as for a boy. me personally, I have 3 boys, and they are very precious to me. But yes, not having a girl, I feel that, and I would have liked to have both, because I think it brings a balance to your life.
What about somebody that does have daughters? What is that blessing like?
Oh, this is fantastic. As they grow up, they become your friends, and no pleasure can match the shopping trip that you do with your daughter.
What about you? I've got 3 girls, and each of them bring something new to me. You know, they bring me back. You know, they have their qualities. They've helped me develop. You know, as I've grown older, and having daughters is a blessing.
Freya, what does Islam say about the blessings of having girl children?
Islam has given all the rights to a girl child and a woman. I mean, before Islam's advent in the Arabia, the dark times, they used to treat their girls really, really badly. I mean, they used to kill them after they were born. There was no right that they had an inheritance. They didn't have any love either. So Holy Prophet ﷺ actually gave that importance to that girl child and to women on the whole. He himself had daughters, and he loved them very dearly. So he has set an example for all the Muslim followers to love their daughters as well.
Azur, in one of his recent sermons, if I could quickly add, reminded us about the hadith of Holy Prophet ﷺ, that girls stand between the hell and the Father. So we should really enjoy the presence, the blessings of our daughters.
I think life has developed, and it's important. Girls are not a burden anymore. A lot of the times, girls are the ones who are supporting their families, and that thought that girls were just a burden, you have to spend on them, spend on their marriage, that's, I think, like a myth now. You know, I think especially the audience, the young audience in front of me, I don't think you can relate to that you're a burden, because you're educated, young, smart women, and you're holding your own.
Yeah. I want to move on now and talk about once you have had your children and that period of early motherhood and the challenges and the rewards that comes with that. Mariam, what is that early period like?
It can be quite a shock, if I'm honest with you. Your life will change in a very dramatic way. There's this young baby who is completely dependent on you for everything, and it can feel like quite a pressure at the time, because, you know, even having a shower can seem quite difficult, fitting that into your daily routine. But then at the same time, as you watch that child grow and develop, and you think that you are supplying its every need, it feels incredibly rewarding, and it's a great pleasure. And to be able to see your parents' faces and those around you. Actually, I think that everybody's face, when a mother is pushing a pushchair down the road, everyone will look at the baby and have a smile on their face or have a comment, because it's a natural thing for us. Very enjoyable.
Can I just add that not when a woman has a child, in Muslim culture and Asian culture, for the first 40 days, that woman is asked to rest. And at first I used to think it's just a cultural thing, that the mum comes, she looks after us, because I see my non-Muslim friends taking their kids to school a day after they've had the baby, etc. But in recent research, even doctors now ask women for the first 40 days to look after themselves, to look after their bodies, so they get back that strength that they've used during pregnancy and birth. So I think it's interesting how society now is coming around to old wives' tales, as they would be called, I would say.
Are they just old wives' tales, or is there something in Islam that talks about that early period for you?
I mean, I'm not aware of any Islamic teachings regarding that. Perhaps Dr. Amtul Razak would like to say something, but culturally we have always put a great emphasis, and I think it is quite important, because you need to rest, and for first 40 days medically lots of things are happening to you as well. Things are going back to what they used to be. Your body is adjusting back to what it was before you had a child as well. So it is quite important to look after yourself.
French are leading the way in research in rehabilitation of mothers, and they have come to exactly the same conclusion. First 40 days should be used to make a bond with your child. It doesn't mean that you have to be confined to home with your baby, But it is also to be recognized that babies are incredibly vulnerable to any viral infection at that time. So spend more time at home, more time relaxing with the baby, and in our culture with the concept of some elder staying with you for first 40 days. I had my elder sister look after me for 40 days, and that was absolutely fantastic.
I'd just like to say to you that once you're a mother, logic goes out the window. And my daughter, she's a math student, everything makes sense, everything's balanced for her, and since she's had 2 children, it's gone out the window, so be prepared for surprises.
How about some reaction from the audience about this early stage? Yeah.
Can I just add to what you were saying about relaxation at home and mothers resting? And I think it's not just relaxation at home. I think mothers should also go out, leave maybe the baby at home, someone who can care for the baby, and just have that time out, going out with their husband to have some coffee, have something to eat, or shopping, or whatever they enjoy doing.
How about back in the corner?
Also, I think that those women who don't have the support network of maybe their mothers or any sisters or anyone immediate that they can turn to, say for example if they're living in a different country, then or even at home, it's really important for the husband to be there and support the wife, the mother, and also chip in and do his share as well, nappy changing, etc.
Yeah, that's a great point. I want to come back to the audience and to the panel and talk about postnatal depression, especially in that early period. Amtad, what is postnatal depression?
It is a well-known scientific fact that hormones play an important role in the moods of women. And during pregnancy, hormone levels are very, very high. After the birth of baby, there is a sudden drop in the level of these hormones, and certain women react in different ways. Sometimes there can be very low moods as a result of this drop in hormones, and that's called postnatal depression. Whereas the other extreme is that women become too hyperexcitable, and that's called postnatal psychosis. Both these are well recognized, short-lived conditions that can be treated very well with support of family, and particularly the point made about husbands. Women are extremely vulnerable at that time. And we all know that the last advice of the Holy Prophet ﷺ to us was that look after your women, they are vulnerable. And this is the most vulnerable part of their life. They physically look different from what they would like to look. They don't feel in control of their environment. Babies pose challenge that they may not be prepared for. And husband can play a pivotal role in supporting the ladies and getting them out of this difficult situation.
Miriam, where can women go if they're experiencing any of these symptoms or any of these problems in early motherhood?
Well, depending on where you live, there are always facilities for young mothers around. And the important thing is, I think, not to sit at home and feel you're the only person with this problem. Go out and get involved in groups. So you have coffee mornings, you have play groups, you have mother groups. And when you sit there and you talk to other mothers, you'll realize that they're all going through similar things, and they will be able to offer you practical advice and help because they will be going through the same thing. I think a starting point is your GP if you are in a place where you are not familiar with such services, and they can point you in the right direction.
Postnatal depression can come as a shock to you because you've had your baby, all of a sudden you're a mum now. You don't think about yourself as much anymore, and I think a lot of us think it's not going to happen to us. And so, as one of the audience members said, it's important you give yourself you time and analyse yourself. And if you are feeling in a mood that you're not normally, there's nothing wrong with it, but try and do something about it. Because I think after being a mother, we forget about ourselves.
Fia, as a GP, what would you say to a woman that may be experiencing difficulties in that early period?
I think first of all you would like to recognize what you're feeling and go and seek help and see your GP. There is a clear distinction between baby blues, which most of the women feel, 50 to 70% of women feel, but where you're just irritable, crying because of the routine being disturbed, etc., and lack of sleep. But that normally settles within a couple of weeks. The postnatal depression is something that is ongoing and can go up to a year after birth. The most important thing that you have to watch out for, apart from regular symptoms as irritability, crying, feeling low, is that if you're feeling that you can't bond well with your child, that is quite an important symptom to look out for, because that has effect on your child as well. So go and see your GP and discuss. There are loads of treatments and options available.
I want to come to the audience now. Did you feel overwhelmed in that point, those of you that are mothers? Back in that corner.
A slight on an aside, away from baby blues and depression, but more about accessing your support network. I just wanted to add that I think in this day and age, there's a lot of young mothers who have a very good support network, but maybe the opposite of postnatal depression is happening, even though they might have similar symptoms, in that they're so overwhelmed by the amount of support network that are in their living space that they find it very hard that they want to maintain control. So the opposite happens, as opposed to not feeling that bond with their child, they're obsessing that they want to keep that bond with their child and be with them at all times, and feeling like maybe the child won't think that is their mother if someone else is holding them, during that 40-day period, for example. So I think it's very important for new mothers to realise that any support that they do get, that it is actually for their own benefit, and they need to learn to let go, learn to, take advantage of that longer bath that they wouldn't have had a chance to do if someone wasn't there. Let that person into their kitchen and cook for them and tidy up. And the more you let go and more you're relaxed, the more likely the baby is to actually sleep better as well, because they will pick up on your lack of anxiety then if you are able to relax.
Yes, make a point. When you have a child, you will be bombarded with advice. You'll be probably told 10 different ways to change a nappy, 10 different ways how to put your baby to sleep. But my advice is take it with a pinch of salt. You listen to it and you do what suits you. I've had 4 children. For each child, I've been told to put them to sleep a different way. Alhamdulillah, they're all well, they're healthy. But as scientific statistics come out, we're being told something's better for the baby, something's better this time next year, etc., etc. So you will be bombarded with advice. My advice to you is just listen calmly and do what suits you.
Yes, go ahead.
Our expectation of how we're going to feel once we have the baby can often be not exactly how we feel when it happens, and that can lead to these feelings of maybe feeling a bit blue. So I think it's a good idea to not pin everything on this baby. It is part of your life, but it's not your complete life. And if you feel the expectation is too high and then it doesn't quite fulfill or doesn't quite feel the way you expected it to feel, you could perhaps start feeling more towards the baby blues.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And when we're talking about the support system, a key ingredient there is the father. Freya, what is the role of fatherhood? What is the role of a father in that early period of motherhood?
I think fathers should play an important role, a huge role, especially in this society when most of us are not living in extended families. We haven't got our close family living close by to us anyways. Some of them have to travel, even if they are living in the same city. And in this day and age, fathers, I think fathers do take part a lot in a child's upbringing, and they should help out mother as much as they can. Perhaps she can take a longer nap, and they can do the duties and perhaps feed the child or look after the crying baby.
Yeah. Mariam, what would you say then is the role of a father in the upbringing of a child?
Yeah, he's your partner in bringing up that child. So he has all the responsibilities you have, it's shared. And I think it's very important that you've talked about this before the baby arrives and you are working off the same sheet, the same rules. I think it's a good idea to discuss your own childhoods, because often the way your parents raised you, you will instinctively use those same techniques with your children. So talk about your own childhood, how you were brought up, and then choose the things that you like, and choose the rules and the methods that you would want to then use on your child, and make sure you are always upfront together. Do not contradict each other, do not criticize each other, and work as a team.
Science also shows the role of father is very well established, because children who have a strong male bond do very well in schools. They are high achievers even if they come from deprived backgrounds, and girls in particular are unlikely to go the wrong path if they have a strong role model at home.
Okay, that's a good point. We had some comments from the audience. One back here.
Picking up on your earlier point of orphans, I was just thinking that my second father, he's brought up 3 children, and he showed so much love and affection. So I think that it's not necessary that a biological father will actually shower that amount of affection and love on a child. And I've seen that in my own experience. So, and I see that my son now turns to his grandfather for that fatherly kind of love and fatherly affection. Yeah.
That's a good point. There was a comment back here as well.
I just wanted to add to Mariam's point of role of father that before my baby was born, my husband and I sat down and we discussed things that we would do and we wouldn't do, and things that we wouldn't contradict each other, and we try our best not to do that even now in front of our baby. So I think it's really important to have that discussion, and the role I see that my husband plays with his daughter is amazing, and they go out on walks, and she's only 1.5 years old, but she has a special bond with her dad now. Even sometimes I feel it's even stronger than my bond with her, that she has a really strong bond.
And this thing that society understands the role of fathers. More and more fathers are given paternity leave to take time. So they, again, probably through research, they have found out the importance that a father has, one, in supporting the new mother, and the bond that a child has with the father.
We're going to have to start wrapping it up here, but Mariam, I want to talk about now, what have you enjoyed about motherhood? What have you found to be the good parts of motherhood?
Well, I'm through the really young phase. My youngest is 4. And what I enjoy is when I see their own personality come through. Each of them are so different, whereas they've been brought up in the same house and with the same general guidelines and rules. And when I see them go out and make decisions and be themselves and take on responsibility and use the things that we've taught them and help them and encourage them to do, and they go and they do them by themselves, it's very rewarding. I think that's the best thing.
What have you found to be rewarding about motherhood?
I think for me personally, it's the day-to-day little things. The love and affection that I get from my girls, the hugs, the laughter that we enjoy together, the little things, the faces that they make, and all of these things throughout the day make you smile, make you laugh, and that just makes you feel more happier and just brings that joy into your life.
Razak, what are some of the challenges that you have faced, or that you think mothers in general face?
Challenges, being a woman surgeon in training, having very difficult pregnancy and a very beautiful baby that you never wanted to leave I had everything. I think the immense gratitude I have with all these challenges was that I learned to pray. I thought I knew how to pray, but after my baby, I actually learned to pray. I realized the importance of prayers, importance of listening to Hazur's sermons every Friday, and importance of having that strong bond with my God, because I remember I've heard Hazur Rahmahullah say that mothers who have strong bond with their God, their children don't go astray. So that's the biggest blessing for me.
I want to go to the audience one last time just for some last reactions about the topic at hand. Here in the middle.
I think being a mother is such a huge responsibility. It's a very important role. I don't think we can ever be prepared for it as much as we can. But one thing that we must remember is through physical development, we must understand that it's a means of spiritually developing oneself as well. And if we play our roles right, then I think both couples, both the husband and the wife, can attain nearness to God in that way.
Yeah, that's a brilliant point. We had another comment in the back. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, although they're obviously are very, very difficult and very challenging, as we've discussed, they are also so rewarding. And once your kids go to school, you lose out on all that time that you have with them. So really try and make the most of it, the time you have with them.
There's a comment up here.
I would just like to add one last point, going back even further from early motherhood to when you're actually expecting the child. I was told to read the Holy Qur'an a lot, and in actual fact there's a lot of scientific evidence as well to show that the baby in the womb listens and hears what the mother is saying especially. And for me, that was a very calming and serene time when I used to recite the Holy Qur'an and feel that my baby was listening to me, because even now, when he is now 10 months old and I recite the Qur'an in front of him, he will stop whatever he is doing and he will turn to me and just listen. And for me, as a Muslim, I think that that is a very important point in my early motherhood stage.
Yeah. Is there any other last point over here?
Yes, I just wanted to go back even further to the before pregnancy stage. That I think that is very important, that as Muslim women, regardless of our outcome as wives and hopefully mothers, whether that's naturally or through adoption, that we pay a lot of attention towards our education, because regardless of, as the point I mentioned earlier, that whether we have children straight away or after 5 or 10 years or never at all, that we're supposed to be showing an example to the wider society and play an active role in that. And so we should further our education to the best means, so that whether we're volunteering for charity work or going into a profession, that we can show our nephews, our nieces or our neighbours' children an example of Islam that way.
Yeah, there was another point right in front of you.
It was just a comment about spirituality and being prepared. That my husband used to recite the first and the last 3 chapters of the Holy Quran every single day while I was expecting, and it used to calm the baby. And when she was born, and every time she cried, and even now when he does that, it calms her. She absolutely gets quiet. So I think it's really important, the Holy Quran. I used to put it on my laptop, and while I was working in the house, I had it on all the time, just that it affected me as well, and I'm sure that, I hope that affected my baby as well.
I want to come back to the panel for one last comment from each of you, your last impression on what we've discussed today, and really particularly how faith should inform our motherhood, and what you would say to non-mothers, and how faith should play a role in their lives. Nasra, to you.
Well, just as the audience has been saying, that, you know, reading the Quran, having strong faith, having belief is very important, to know that Allah provides everything, and you're not alone, Allah is with you. And motherhood is something to look forward to and embrace it with joy.
Motherhood has got so many attributes. You don't have to be a biological mother to show that to the whole of the world.
Maryam.
I would say that your most powerful tool as a mother is the role model that you play. So in early motherhood, just reflect on the role that you are portraying to your children, and do the best that you can and follow the guidelines that Islam has put there for you.
And Freya?
I mean, I think I agree, of course, with all what the panel has said, but just wanted to say to girls that enjoy that time with your children as well, because in no time they will grow up, and then you would miss that time when they were younger. So enjoy every minute of being a mother.
That's all the time that we have here today. I want to thank our panelists and our studio audience for joining us to discuss this topic of motherhood. There's so much more to discuss, and inshallah we'll cover it in future programs. I want to thank the viewers at home for joining us as well. Remember, you can join in the discussion by emailing us. Our web address is mta.tv/realtalk. You can also follow us on Twitter. Thank you again for joining us. Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum.